This episode, Engaging with Customers on Social Media, an article review. In this episode, the Handyman Pros review an article about engaging on social media. Let's all learn together because John and I are still in that learning process. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition is entitled Engaging with Customers on Social Media. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever cheerful co-host, old buddy John. Johnny,
hey,
Johnny,
talk here to me, Johnny. Man.
What's happening this week? Anything exciting?
This week, guess what I get to do is another faucet.
They come in spurts.
I see what you did there.
Not really. That wasn't intentional, but
folks, it's the older you get, the more it's being contorted underneath a kitchen sink is it gets a little tougher. And this one is a kitchen sink, and it's a replacement, which is fine. It'll be great. They needed a new faucet, so they went out and I said, you know what? Instead of even playing with this old one, just let's go buy a new one. And sure enough, so that's what I've got going on this week.
And that's about what, 70 for you this year? Seems.
Oh my God, it's been
a bunch.
It's been one after another.
Yeah.
But in my spare time, I was going through some plumbing magazines.
This is what the Handyman Pros do in their spare time. We read trade magazines, trade articles.
Most of you sleep in on Sunday morning, not me. I'm up reading trade rags. But I ran across an article in this plumbing magazine, and I'll give credit to who wrote this article. It was by a woman called, her name is Michaela Plaus, I believe this. If I pronounce it wrong, I'm sorry. But she works for Rigid, which is the tool manufacturer, right?
Yep.
Rigid.
Tool manufacturer, yep.
But she wrote a little article in the plumbing magazine about engaging with your customers on social media.
Right.
And I thought, we get a lot of questions, whether you're a handyman or you have a business. It's always good to understand, how to get more customers and keep customers with social media and using these tools.
Well, and I would say also as a homeowner, there's a lot of really great information that you can get off of the social media sites as far as questions asked and answered. So what it comes from good questions being asked by homeowners and by good contractors actually answering the questions. So the key, and yes, this particular episode is going to be geared a little bit more towards handymen and engaging in customers. But folks, if you're listening as a homeowner, just understand that you can get a lot of your questions, because there's no handbook on how to fix stuff, or at least we're working on one, aren't we, Johnny? We're working on one, but there's no handbook as far as how to really take care of your home. And so sometimes and then there's unique situations and all that kind of stuff. So it is what it is.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right.
So
it's one of the things that we like about it, right, is it's free.
It's free
mostly, and it's a great way to establish yourself in either you're just budding business or your established business. It takes discipline,
yes,
no doubt, and I fall down on it more often than I want to admit. But if you keep up with it, you will get results. You will.
Yeah, you will. I guess the question is you do have this is the word of caution, as with any bit of marketing that anybody does. If you get out there and you do a really good job at it, be prepared for the results, right? So if you Like
You're
John
right.
says he falls down on it. Folks, I'm going to give you some inside information. John falls down on it because if John gets any more work, he's not going to be able to complete the tasks that he has. And that actually goes the same thing for me. Believe it or not, we run full-time handyman businesses as well as doing this goofy podcast and some of the other activities that we do. And so having too much business can be almost as problematic as having not enough. With that said, forward on, John, tell us some more.
So, the point of engaging, and there's a few things here that she brings up. And I'm going to put my own twist on a couple of these things just from
Mm-hmm.
my past experience in business, and using social media on a larger scale than just my handyman business, or anything small like that. But it is true. It's all about getting business, keeping the business. And what's nice about it is it's like, we all use things like, Twitter, Facebook, but it's instant. It's fast communication, number
Right,
one.
right. We
Um,
never talk about communication on this show, do we? Never. But keep going.
yeah. And, um, it's that fast communication to promote yourself, to promote your business. And I call it the uniqueness of your business. It's always a way to advertise yourself, right?
And your work, because you
And
can
your
put
work.
pictures up there and videos.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And you get a chance to network with other people. And I think, let me pause right there, is that is the great thing about some of these social platforms. And we've been on, even our own Facebook, and I hope you join our Facebook group, which is growing. And thanks to all of you who have joined it. But I'm learning, and I learn a lot from those groups.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, one of the other great examples, and I was going to bring this up a little earlier, but it gives you now, it doesn't help if you're marketing a local business, but it does give you a breadth and depth of things that go on around the country and around the world. And like when we because John and I live in the South, we tend to talk about timelines here in the South, and we don't talk a lot about cold weather issues, even though we both lived in cold climates. I've kind of forgotten about some of them, but the groups always remind me of why I moved. Did did I just say that, John?
That's I see all kinds of things from up north, and people send me pictures, and you're right. And that's why I moved.
Yeah, it's why it's part of the reason why I moved. But
I'm
anyway,
out of there.
but it gives you a great depth of how things, and for me, I know like lots of times because I'm always looking for kind of unique and creative ways to do things, and sometimes there's that old adage in business that the things that'll be new in your world were old in somebody else's world. And for example, how certain things are done in the western United States are different than how they're done in the East.
Hmm.
And they're not necessarily worse, they're not necessarily better, but they could be better for particular applications. So I love to look at what other people are doing just because I get creative ideas on when I'm facing a challenge of
Well,
some kind of any given product, or doing some kind of an install. I like to have an idea, a big idea of what the potential solutions are. So I like to get on these sites and just see what other people are doing, not everybody else, and sometimes and apply what works. That's why I say that. That's why this is important for a homeowner to understand this. If you get out there, ask your questions, because you can ask and you will find there's a million. You'll find generally there'll be a consensus answer, but not always. And sometimes you'll get some really creative and unique things that can come out of some of the discussions that go on social media. So that's one of the reasons why I like to be on those social media platforms.
and I find it quite entertaining. There's some there's some great things. There's a lot of good laughs out there of you know I don't want to say
WTF?
it, but when I look at some of the code violations and things like that, I'm like, who in that put that thing together, that kind of thing. But I learn a lot from these, and it's everybody has a different technique and a different take
Yes.
on a lot of things, on
Yes.
some of these things. But and I really, boy, I'm like, God, I never thought about cutting, three pieces of wood together like that, or it's like the time saving things that you can do, you can find and share out there. And I find it quite interesting, and beneficial that people will, on some of the boards that we're members of, you know, they'll put out, hey, I've got this problem with all these pictures, and how would you go about doing it? Some of the responses are quite helpful, and some of them aren't.
Some of them are typical social media responses, right?
And
You know,
and
yeah.
and that is and that's a point, that's a point that she brings up here too, is that when you start to go out on the boards, or your own social media, and start promoting yourself, and you ask for feedback, and feedback is important,
Right.
but be professional and don't take it personally.
Right.
Okay, because there's a lot of trolls out there. There's a lot of,
Mm.
but there's a lot of people that want to help, and it's a great way for what we've just talked about, this fast communication, that you can get answers back to some very difficult things very quickly. Where, years and years ago, Larry, when I was a kid, you know where do you go and get that kind of information?
You went to the library and
Library.
you did a loan purpose for the latest magazine because your local library didn't have that magazine. So you put in the request to get the magazine sent to you so that you could look at it for a week to
Bingo.
get the updated, the latest information. In those days came in magazines, right?
Right.
Welcome to the old world, folks. If you're
Yeah.
young, guess what? You don't realize how good you have it. We get answers today,
Yeah.
between Google and the social sites. And here's the other thing on these social sites, lots of times people respond with pictures, and actually this is how you do it. Sometimes they've even made videos. I've gotten some videos back from guys. They're like, "Oh yeah, I just did that. Here it is." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dang,
It's
like that's sweet."
yeah.
So that helps me. It helps save me time, money, and aggravation, right?
Right.
Like we use that's our moniker on the show. But our goal with this show is to help you be more efficient in your home maintenance and repair efforts, either as a businessman or as a homeowner. We want you to understand that there's just a lot of resources that are out there. But anyway, this and socials are a part of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's go. What socials would you use, John? Which are the ones that you'd go into?
Well,
What platform?
at when I was in business, LinkedIn was the number one. Okay, because it was a professional network.
Right.
Um, for those of you who don't use LinkedIn, it's kind of like a professional Facebook type of thing, if you will. It's got your resume out there, that whole the
Right.
whole thing, and you're networking. Basically, you're networking through a lot of people, and you're hooking up with a lot of people and getting into their networks and finding jobs and finding ideas, finding things. But it was always a very professional side of things. Um, I don't know what really LinkedIn has turned into as of late, when I go out there, but you guys can go out there and figure that out for yourself.
Yeah, I
Um,
spend a little time on LinkedIn, but I find for what we do, I don't find great
it's
answers.
not, it's
It's not
so that's just
ideal.
kind of exactly, Larry. This is the kind of thing I wanted to put a little bit of a twist on this, is that,
Yep.
we're talking about it from a handyman side of things. LinkedIn is not, I don't see where it's going to apply as much. Now, some of you contractors out there, probably, some of the guys out there that have bigger businesses, I can see using that. Um,
If you're targeting business to business, like if you want to work for
yes,
commercial people, it's a
that's
great
that's what I'm, that's
resource.
what I'm, that's a
Yeah.
good point. That's what I'm talking about, is
Yeah.
is when you're a bigger thing like that. So, from this side of the video and podcast, is that we just want to say, that this is, anybody can use this kind of information, whether you're a small guy, or you're doing business to business type of things.
Yep.
Facebook has been great,
Facebook's
especially for the
very strong.
handyman.
Yeah, very strong in the handyman side. Between Facebook and Nextdoor, those are going to be tremendous sources of leads for a handyman business, and they're tremendous sources of leads, just or not leads, but they're tremendous places to ask questions, and get answers. So again, for those home repairs, but do be aware, John. You mentioned it. There are a lot of trolls out there, and it's somewhat aggravating. I mean, John and I are members of lots of the professional handyman, groups, everybody asks about pricing, and the trolls come out in droves when you ask about pricing, and it just drives me crazy. It's like, not everybody has a good idea of how to do things, and or even how to approach it. And so we did a show on pricing. So folks, if you want to go back, we've done one on pricing just to kind of give you our take on how you can do pricing. But there's always a lot of themes that come up over and over again. And in the handyman business, pricing is one of them, because it's difficult. It's not simple, and it's very area specific and so forth and so on. But do be aware, even if you're out asking questions, be prepared for trolls. Here's my thing. When you're responding to these questions that people have, understand they're asking the question most of the time because they really don't know the answer. So somebody asks, like, I don't know, what you and I, John, would consider to be a really simple question. Like, what do you mean you don't know that? What's the voltage of a wall outlet? Well,
Mm-hmm.
You and I are going to go, it's 110, right? Or it should be.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not, you've got a different issue, right? Or if it's got a funky plug on it, this plug looks funny. What is it? And you and I just jump on that. We go, oh, that's, whatever it is. But most people don't have, not everybody has that kind of experience. In fact, John, why did we start this show? Do you remember?
Yeah. I mean, this was all about saving time, money, and aggravation, and for homeowners.
For homeowners. And we actually started this show so that we could reduce our workload by giving people tips on how to actually fix things. And because
Right.
we found we were going out to do jobs that I don't want to say they were beneath us, but we were just kind of like, wow, you're going to pay me this to do
Yeah.
that? Like, you should know how to do this. If you'll remember, that was a lot of our genesis was based around that. Now, we still do all those jobs, so I guess their free time is worth more than what they pay us, which maybe means we should talk about pricing
Yeah.
again. Anyway, I
But
digress. But that was the reason one of the reasons why we actually started this show was to teach you how to do some of the simple things that we think you should know how to do, but you don't necessarily know how to do right now. So folks, there's 200 plus episodes. Go back and look for tips and tricks. So it is what it is.
and from our just our own experience with social media, we've it's branched out to a lot of our fellow compadres out that are doing the same thing we're doing, handymen.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Which is fantastic. So we have quite the diverse audience in that
All over the world. It always
yeah,
amazes.
yeah, it's incredible.
It's everywhere.
So once again, that's been our experience with using social media and getting involved. And it took us a while to get our feet under us, and it's still there. There's always improvements and more consistency, and that's one of the things from my take, using social media in the past. In a professional manner, is that you really do need to be consistent and be on it a lot. There are companies that do nothing, and we've hired them, not Larry and I, but when I was in business, is that that we've hired those companies to just do some social for us, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now it's easy, it takes time, that's all. And you have to, the best thing to do is put yourself together a calendar and follow that, as a reminder of when to post, what to post, and to keep up with it. One of the things that we do a lot was blogging, sending out messages on things like Twitter, or to get information out quickly, using those platforms. Instagram now, using that for pictures and videos, and that's really popular. There's others out there that people follow religiously, and you can tap into. It's really interesting that there's people that are real Facebook people, then there's the LinkedIn people, then there's the Twitter people, and you just kind of have to be cognizant of that and tap into all that. So that's another thing from my experience, what I've seen out there. So I know just all the younger folks out there walking around they're always on these kind of platforms, and that's the way you attract people these days. And
Yep.
So
Well, what are there any points when we're getting started what you need to work on?
it's like what we always talk about, is what's your goal? you got to sit down with a plan. What are you trying to
And make a plan.
accomplish?
Yeah, make a plan,
Make
right?
a plan. What's the goal?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do? I would also set some milestones along the way for you, for yourself too. To achieve these type of things. Whether it's how many times I'm going to post, what I'm going to post, what kind of message am I sending out, those kind of things. Um, One of the other things that she brings out in this article um, is using Google My Business for
Yes.
search.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And that's a big thing. And Larry, you and I always talk about search engine optimization.
Correct.
So that folks, you can go look that up, but it's really important that you use certain words and keywords and consistency, so when people are googling and for searching for you, that you're going to come up on searches. Once
Right.
you start that, then watch out, you're going to be you're going to come up all the time, which is great for your business.
Right, right. And Google Maps also. Don't forget to get the Google My Business will put you in Google Maps. And you actually, believe it or not, if you're going to run a local business, you want to be on Google Maps so people know where you are. It really, really matters
I
in that
agree.
sense,
I agree
So
with that, because just in my own experience, when I Google something, it's on a map. It's like, oh, there it is, right there.
yeah, there it is right there.
The competitor
And
could
for
be
a
right across the
handyman, you
street.
yeah, for a handyman, and you've even heard we did the show on hiring a handyman, and one of the things is you want a local person. You want somebody that's pretty close,
Right,
within a certain amount of distance, but you want somebody that's pretty close so they can service you well.
right.
That's one of the things. Same thing with contractors. Don't hire a contractor that's 100 miles away. That generally doesn't go well.
Yeah,
So it's valuable. To the homeowners out there, use the internet. The internet's a great way to get right. It's more than just getting referrals and things, because you can massage those, but know where the company is, and have an idea, and see. And even if it's just at your house, that still doesn't matter. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's a resource. So get out there, and keep and post. But for most business people in the handyman business, if you're a solo operator, just be aware that you can overwhelm yourself. I've said it once before, but I'll say it again. You can overwhelm yourself. If you're a multi person operation, it becomes a little bit different. Then you might want to continue working on that. But you definitely need to be out there. You have to be out there. It's just a question of getting out there, get the good feedback, find out what the new and hot jobs are that are coming up. We know that the world has changed tremendously in the past 2.5 years, John. I mean, we're doing more and more home office builds, and doing infrastructure stuff on people's houses because they're working from home now. It's been, both challenging and easier at the same time. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. It's just changed so
yeah.
fast. That's what you can find out on social. It would take, back in the old days, John, it would take us forever to find out what was really going on. It's taken forever. Today, it's like, six
Oh
or
well,
seven
yeah. The,
clicks.
the amount of data that's being generated every day, and that's being broadcast out there, and consumed is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that for another show. But I think one of the things that she does bring up here that I do want to say is that she does bring up a good point, and don't overdo it. Okay.
Yes.
It is easy to start to throw things out there. That's not really you got to watch it. Start slow and kind of build up, but have that plan in place, so that you just don't throw things out there that are not value added. If you keep throwing things out there that are not value added, let's say that if it's on Twitter, people will start ignoring you.
Ignoring you. Yeah. Yep.
But if you do have things that are of value, then even if it's not as frequent, people will subscribe, will digest, they'll consume that information, which is great. And this also goes for all your blogs and your posts on your own website as well.
Mm-hmm.
So um
So, John, do you think that the aliens do any of this? I mean, I know you've had some intimate experiences with them on their ships, but my question is, do they read your blog about taking apart spaceships? Because
they found me on Google Maps.
and folks, as I always say, we make this stuff up right at the time that we start talking. Folks, if you enjoy the Handyman Pros radio show, please tell your friends and neighbors, send them a link, tell them about these two guys that talk about all this insane stuff about home maintenance and repair and about running small businesses. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. We will respond to you, believe it or not. We are starting up a newsletter, so go to our website. Again, it's handymanprosradioshow.com. Go to our contact page, sign up for our newsletter. It is free. It will have all kinds of tips and tricks and all that kind of, stuff that goes into a good newsletter. We've got a Facebook group that's @HandymanPros. And we are on Twitter as well @Handyman Radio. Speaking of all those socials that we were just talking about, we want to thank you for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.